Carne Technologies was set up to develop diagnostic and processing tools, as well as provide consulting services primarily to the red meat industry. As the company has expanded, it's moved further along the supply chain into retail areas such as supermarkets. General Manager Nicola Simmons explains.
We've got a number of services that we offer. They largely reside around the fact that we've got very unique expertise around the business of actually processing the animal. I think despite the decades and decades of research on the live animal effect, still there are a lot of unknowns about what it is about the live animal that determines meat quality or eating quality. So I think it's generally agreed by most research bodies in the world that about 70% of eating quality or meat quality is largely driven by processing. And that's really the point at which the animal comes into the meat plant to the point at which the cuts go out of the meat plant. That really is the defining period in generating either a very good piece of meat or a very poor piece of meat. Farmers know their business, they know their animals, and most farmers are very passionate about the cattle that they farm and the finish on the animals and the type of animal that they end up with. I think probably what seems to come through time and time again with a lot of the work that we do with processes seems to sit around, just generally handling the animal and, just getting to a point where that animal is reasonably familiar with being moved and is unlikely to face any stressor on farm, which could then affect eating quality.
Some of the technology starts with the actual slaughter process, the stunning of the animal to make it unconscious. And there you're looking at the welfare because those have implications to the product of meat. We even have recording equipment that tests and continuously checks to see that the equipment being used for the slaughter process is working correctly and gives feedback to the operator to make sure that process is done well. Subsequent to that, then you're looking at how to manage the carcass and the meat to optimize the quality of the meat with respect to how it's chilled, using technology like electrical stimulation, which causes the muscle to contract and has a substantial influence on the tenderness of the meat and the color of the meat and those sort of attributes that are very important at a retail level. So at the stun end, what we have is a piece of equipment that actually monitors, this is for electrical stunning in particular, and it monitors the electrical parameters being used during the stun and gives an immediate visual feedback to the operator so they can understand that they've done the job well or where problems might occur. And it in a sense, it also allows you to anticipate problems so you can begin to rectify them quickly. Further down the chain, we have things like electrical stimulation that's being used and how to combine that with effective chilling. But ultimately, what you're looking for is ways of testing the quality of the product, essentially as it's being supplied to the customer. So one of the key requirements in meat is tenderness. And the traditional procedure that has been around for many years is something called a shear force test. This is to actually cook the meat and cut it into a specified shape and then measure the mechanical force that's needed to bite through that particular sample of meat. So that, in effect, simulates the biting process, the eating process. And from that, it'll give you an objective value for the tenderness of the meat. The traditional tenderometer requires the meat to be cooked, so effectively it's a destructive test that can't be used online particularly easily. So what we've gone beyond that is to develop a method that allows you to measure tenderness in a raw piece of meat and to do that online at chain speeds in a boning room, for example. So this is quite a new technology for us. We've been developing it maybe for 2 or 3 years now, and it's now going into a few plants for trials and testing. At this stage, what it's concentrating on is measuring the tenderness of the meat, but we'd like to go beyond that, and we've already beginning to do the next generation of development there to do multiple measurements simultaneously as the tenderness is being measured. This measures the meat as it stands at the moment of measurement, but it also allows you then to predict what it's going to be like in, say, 2 weeks' time when the meat has gone through the aging process, the tenderization process, before it gets to retail. So it allows you to identify a product it's going to be tough, and it also then allows you to identify a particularly good quality product that could be marketed as a separate branding process. The other aspect is to do with the pH of the meat. Now this is closely linked to how much sugar is present in the meat at the time the animal is slaughtered. And that refers then to the pre-slaughter, the conditions under which it's raised, the nutrition and the handling of the animal before slaughter. Because if that sugar becomes depleted when the animal is slaughtered, the muscle isn't able to develop the usual amounts of lactic acid, which causes the meat to acidify after slaughter. If it doesn't acidify properly, you end up with very poor quality meat for a number of different reasons. It looks very dark, it doesn't eat very well, it doesn't store very well in chilled storage. So how you handle the animal up to the point of slaughter is very critical to making sure that the quality of the meat is properly looked after.
Our focus now is on the development of both real-time and offline measurement tools that can be used in commercial environments to essentially measure the quality, whatever that quality feature might be, whether it's tenderness or colour or pH, to do that in an easy, non-destructive manner. Then, not only does it mean that the people selling that meat have got some confidence about the kind of quality that's being put out to the customer, but actually, and as importantly, it means the farmers have got now a system to understand that the kind of animals that they're producing, what are the outcomes? What is the quality of those animals? Because the only way they can actually improve is if they have information and data. So that's really, the way we view this is the kind of tools and the systems that we develop, we manufacture and we sell direct are around trying to supply an information platform up and down the supply chain.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.